Evolution of a rock hunter here. We're going to try something very different today. And that is, we're going to try to merge a rockhound and a hunter. Because there's a lot of people truly that are missing the boat on this one. And I have seen seismic shifts. I'm going to be talking a lot about that. And so, by gosh, please hang in there with me. This is going to get quite interesting. As a young man, I remember walking up, starting to hunt, and actually seeing antlers on the ground. And I asked my father, we're hunting and, kind of talking about a buck and we're trying to figure out, I was, as a young boy, trying to figure out, we're walking past some beautiful antlers sitting underneath cedar trees. Well, the only real explanation that I got from my father is, they're just sheds and, deer shed their antlers every year and, so we carry on. Well, I never forgot about it. And so I was like, what in the world? So anyway, I've always been attracted to antlers ever since I was a little kid.
So at a young age, I started to develop a fondness for antlers. And the fondness was coming from the diversity. There was never one antler, even side to side on the same creature, that would be the same. So the diversity. So as I got to where I was a junior in high school, I had a pickup, and I said, well, the heck with this. I said, Grandpa, basically, World War II veteran, basically, why take a buck's antlers or a bull's antlers off the hill? You can't eat them. Well, when it come around to the baby boomer generation, such as my father, Kurt Darner, Jim Zumbo, Gordon Eastman, and several other individuals started to see the specialty of a trophy buck or bull or ram they just didn't fall out of the trees. They were different. They were larger, they were older, and sometimes the most dominant. So it became the term trophy, similar to Remington in Africa, all of that. It started morphing into it. So then pretty quick people started to see an interest in the antler themselves. So that, like I said, there wasn't a good trade. A quarter to 75 cents to $1.50 for fresh. The highest I ever seen for fresh on deer antlers the last time I sold was $3.50 because of the antler art. Elk always had a little bit of a market because of the aphrodisiac. The Asian market, they were buying them up, grinding them up, and apparently producing some sort of a medication of some kind. So I had a ball because all I needed to do is go and look, and you could not believe on public land I could go up into an area, and it was so neat. If we had relatively consistent winters for as far as weather patterns for 3 or 4 years in a row, you could hit a secluded cedar draw or a side hill that was exposed to the south and pick up multiple years sheds, and a lot of times the same buck, multiple year sheds. And a lot of times the deer The buck was actually, some of the antlers, even a blind squirrel would have seen them where they were located at. They get all white, sitting up on top of a bare ridge, and it was so neat. So then it was like an Easter egg hunt, and then there was always the one that was tucked up and in the cedar tree and all that. Well, it had all that fun. Well, when you look at these two antlers, hey, a young hunter that basically has never taken a buck, he could be proud as a peacock to have this little 3-point here. He's probably, hopefully he's just a year and a half old, but he could be in a 2.5-year-old deer. This deer is by far a nicer deer. He is probably 5.5, I would guess, plus or minus a year. And he probably, with both sides, would gross around in the 170s, especially with that nice G1. Now, that talk does not sound like a rock hound. But what I'm trying to do is to try to show you what a lot of you are missing. The antler hunting is not fun anymore. It's a game of chance, a game of first come, first serve. You'll rarely, places that people weren't even picking up the sheds because that they were getting chalky. Now you can't even hardly find a button in some of these areas. It's terrible. So it's not fun when everybody does it. Just think about the glory time that the gold miners who discovered the gold in the American River in 1848 in California. They had a most glorious, unbothered, wonderful time. By 1850, it was a disaster. And it became massive work. And it wasn't near as fun as the ones that first discovered. So what I'm going to show you, we have a 1.5 years, hopefully, and a 5.5 year creature that have dropped these antlers. I still pick up an antler when I'm out there looking rock hounding, but I hunt these. Now, if you think about it, there's over 4,400 minerals. There's over 103 elements on the periodic table. Think about that diversity. And I'm going to add a few more trophies to this table. Now, as you see, our antlers are actually looking prettier because they've got a few friends. So, I kind of put what I feel in the world of rock hounding, and at least in my eyes, trophy with trophy and how they rank. So here we have this nice buck right here. Hopefully he's a 1.5 years. He's got good genes. He's going to click right along. Well, here we have a nice calcinium nodule with fortifications without a fracture. And you're sitting there going, well, that's a rock. No, it's not a rock. It can be called a rock. But that's actually a pocket within the volcanic material that filled up with silicated type fluid through the course of maybe 1,000 years or 1,000,000 years or gosh knows how long. Okay, if you look over here, look at that. Same thing. Look at those fortifications. So you have that big length of time. This is what they call a yellow jasper. Look, everybody knows obsidian, the old arrowheads and this and that. Sometimes we call it flint. Well, look at the shine of that. It's naturally got shine. Well, all of those are different. So now for the big buck. Well, not a giant buck, but a pretty good buck. I went ahead and actually got you into some a little bit more trophy-oriented nodules. You can see that one is beautiful. Look at how beautiful that is. Sorry for being able to see the reflection of the light in there. It's so dang nice, but that in a nutshell is a nice geode that my wife picked up, and we didn't know what was going to be inside of that until we actually cut it. Now look at this one. Look how pretty. And I don't like the reflection of the light. Here, let me see here if I can do it the best. This one was just on a video, and it happens to be one of my favorites. So to put it in perspective, okay, that to me, and the difficulty of finding one of that quality in nature, same as with that, is very similar to that. Now, some of the people are going to go, "You're a nut." But in reality, the looking for these minerals has been a wonderful experience. Now, think about it. Think about what they have in common. So we've talked about the antlers, and now you can't even find an antler. Everybody's running up there. A lot of places have closed seasons, and it's like 1848 in California. Well, I don't want to be part of it. Now, if I happen to be looking for one of these, and I find the antler, well, I'm not no dummy. I'm going to pick that antler up. But value-wise, that's another thing. I only sold one large group of antlers when I was a teenager. I had a long bed Toyota pickup, 1981, and I filled it probably to probably about 2 feet over the bedside height. It's predominantly all deer antlers. And I had the largest deer antler was almost 5 pounds for one side. It had a big old ball on the end of it. I'd love to have had a picture. But even then, I was having fun locating and finding them like Easter egg hunting, but it wasn't anything of any value to me. The value was being able to obtain it hunting by fair chase during legal season. That was where still the trophy. But look how it evolved. I would give anything to have kept some of those antlers that I sold. But even then, I had some, but the ones that I truly valued was the ones that I personally harvested myself. So now I'm going to tell you a little something. I hate doing this at times, but I've thought long and hard, and you know what? There's a lot of people that are just missing the boat on this. Now, in the same time frame, the 50s/60s, mineral collecting, especially
of precious metals, of copper and so forth, industrial type thing, was actually quite common. A lot of things were labeled. Certain jaspers were labeled to certain things. There was a lot of activity went on. Then it just kind of disappeared. Everybody knows what a diamond is, an opal, maybe some of the gemstones. But really, I would much rather have some of these. I know they don't have necessarily the value because they don't have the popularity. Now, see that antler, by weight, by value, probably this day, maybe you get 25 bucks for that. Maybe this little buck over here, you could get 5, the way it sits. But you know what? Person would have a tough time getting that from me for 300, 400, 500. So the value of looking at some of this material, okay, these are by far less precious to me, just like that shed is versus this shed. And of course, the ones that you obtain yourself, you have the memories, you have all of that experiences that opens up as far as memories. Well, I've been doing this for a couple of years now, and I started just for an entertainment to do with my wife, but it sucked me in soon as I started realizing that we would be out in the spring and people would be beating themselves up trying to find some sheds in similar areas, and be happy as could be that they found one shed that day. And they walked and walked and walked. Well, guess what? These are all sheds to me. They're like that Toyota pickup, but then I never did sell it. So I have moose antlers, I have deadheads, I have all sorts of things that basically, maybe at one time wouldn't have meant anything to me. But now they do. So the antler sheds, it's so funny. You got all these people running. It's not for money. They enjoy the hunt for a shed. They pile, they hope to make things with it, but they keep it as a personal keepsake, a little trophy. Well, right now we are going ahead, and actually I had lights blow out in my trophy room / cabinet. Now we're standing in a trophy room. We'll go around it. Here you've seen him. Okay, we're standing in a trophy room. I might speed this up, and this is just a portion of the animals that I was blessed in taking during the course of my life. But you know what? Every one of these little trophies actually have memories. And then I know, for the most part, where they came from. Even more so than what I did with the antlers. And I was racking my head where I actually found, I went out into my pile of antlers and found this nice buck, fresh shed. I wanted to show good fresh sheds to give it a fair comparison. And I can't tell you where I found these, but I bet you I could probably pass within about 90% of where I found those, or even those. Okay, now we're working on the lights, because yeah, like I said, I had a dang
tree fall down. They cut one of the phases down, and it blew out the little LEDs. So you can see over here, we have another. So remember those and where they came from. So can you see the similarities? I remember exactly what was going on when that buck was harvested. I can remember the season. But we also are remembering the season of the mineral collecting. But the kicker is, when we're hunting, we used to always dream when we were passing up animals, wouldn't it be so nice to be able to have a tranquilizer gun that didn't hurt the animal, and you was able to do your hunt, use a tranquilizer that, imagine a dart gun that was effective up to 200-300 yards. You did that, and you could go up, take a photo, have a good time. The animal is just, make sure the animal's okay, and then the animal is basically released like catch and release fishing. That would be very neat. You could have tape measures, you could have replicas done, and the animal would never have to be taken. Because this day and age, that 80 pounds, 90 pounds on a boned out, nice big buck mule deer, 300 on an elk, it's good. It's good eating, and we do have to have population control. But sometimes, I remember one year I passed up 56 different buck deer before I actually harvested one. And sometimes you don't harvest anything bigger than what you've already passed. It was for the extra time in the field. Well, mineral collecting, there is some regulation on public land. There's certain limitations, but for the most part, besides parks and monuments, you pretty much can actually do it year-round. So instead of waiting for a 2-week or a 1-week period or a special permit, therefore we could chase antlers with everybody else in the spring. I think some of that's the reason why. And also you can cross state lines and go. To draw on Wyoming, I have to have a bunch of preference points. Well, we probably could go just right over there to the Blue Forest outside of Cameron and have a good time gathering up material. And they're just glad to have me because I'm spending some money in the local economy. So this is going to be a multi-series to try to actually express why it is called the evolution of a rock hunter, not a rock hound. And there's a fine line because there's a lot of hounds that have never hunted. But there's also hunters out there that could actually enjoy it. And the camping and the experience of being out there, and you have an activity similar to antler picking. You use binoculars, you can do whatever. It is the dangest thing. So anyway, I hope that some of this is actually sinking in, because I really think that there's a lot of individuals that really, you pick rocks up. Well, they're more than just a rock. Just like how you have to do your research as far as your an animal's habits and bedding areas and feeding and so forth. Well, you have to study your geological structures. Okay, you go to a predisposed mine and pay a pick fee of $100 a day.
Very similar to hunting on a private game preserve, or if you have really good stuff and it's unlimited, like a high fence game ranch. And there's not a whole lot of difference. But you go out and you self collect and you experience the hunt, the search, the look, and the discovery. Remember that discovery, the seeing of finding of something that is new to you. I remember the first buck deer that I harvested was with a muzzleloader, Hawkins 50 caliber. I asked my father this. I really wanted a buck. And he says, man, it was either sex, and he basically says, if you see deer hair, you better pull the trigger. And I was so disheartened because I just always, for some reason, just never wanted to harvest a female. And as I progress through life, there is some reasons, and there is some reasons why you need to. But it didn't appeal to me near as much. And I always felt, a little bit something for the fawns and the calves. So I basically picked on the boys. And the first deer that I was able to take, I could not stop rubbing those antlers with my hands, sitting in my bedroom, watching TV, and just sitting there and playing with those antlers and remembering over and over again that day's experience. And so the same thing's happening with these minerals. I can remember the first big quartz geode that I found, quartz crystals. I'd looked all over Heckengon trying to find quartz crystals. Well, finally, I found it. The very first interesting thing that got us moving was the yellow jasper. It was only in one area. We have not returned to that area, but since then we have just keep progressing. It's like you go from your 3-point to your nice 4-point to the old in the mule deer world, a 30-incher, whatever. Well, a lot of us don't ever obtain that. Just like I will never probably find a 10-carat diamond or a 5-ounce gold nugget. It probably will not happen. So, this is something, again, a little different. I'm trying to express what intrigues me, because I actually feel that some people are missing out on this. Remember the time when I remember my grandfather basically saying, you go fishing to fill up a gunny sack and you come home. Well, as the human population progressed, well, that was not feasible. So then it evolves into basically sport fishing. And sometimes people can frown upon other people for harvesting of fish, because they look at it as a limited resource, and the amount of people like to catch and release. Tournament bass fishing, same thing. You're penalized for a dead fish, and you can't even keep your own fish in your possession. In the state of Idaho, they have to donate it to a cause, some sort of a food bank. You can't personally keep it. So mineral collecting and rock gathering, looking for the rarities. Hey, it's rarity in the eyes of the beholder. The first time you see a red rock in the river is the step, and you might be forever content, or you might see images like in the clouds and rocks. That's your thing. People sometimes, when they gather up rocks, they go, well, what is so neat about this? Or that. Oh, sorry for the light shining on you. Or that. But as hunters, we know that it's the effort, it's the time. And hey, the more effort, without the sour, the sweet isn't so sweet. So this is hopefully the start of a revealing of a sport that people who never thought in a million years, just like me, tried to say, hey, something to do, go out there and look. Well, the more I put in it, the more that I receive from it, and the peace. And we're in the middle of February, and I have not looked for any place to ice fish. I have basically, in a nutshell, decided, and my whole year, and I've got a jerky video that's going to be coming out, planning for our first adventure in Nevada. And it sure isn't to go fishing or anything. It's to gather up a rock, or look for a rock, but I didn't have to apply for a permit. I don't have to wait 10 years. I can go enjoy it now. So anyway, thank you so very much. Hope you subscribe, send some comments. I am working with this to try to see if I can make a connection between people that don't hunt and hound and people who actually have hunted all their lives but have never hounded. So anyway, take care and enjoy.